If anyone was to see me riding today, they'd probably think that motorcycles always came naturally to me. To the inexpert eye, it probably looks like I was born on two wheels. You'd see me navigating the highways and byways with the flick of my wrist, commanding and controlling a nearly 800-pound, powerful motorcycle in an extremely unbothered fashion. What y'all wouldn't know is that motorcycling has never been easy for me, and what you see now is not how my story started. In fact, what would you say if I told you that even though I've been riding for nearly 11 years at this point, there are still days when I'm scared? There are still days when I don't trust my motorcycle, and there are still days when I make mistakes. There's still days when I get left behind a little because I'm struggling to keep up with the pack, especially in tight turns. There's days when those sharp C curves, like the one on Route 18, I'm looking at you, will cause my ass to pucker and my soul to leave my body. If I told you all of that, would you believe me? Welcome back to my channel. This is Wordy Woody. As always, this is a time well wasted. Thank you for joining me and watching today's video. So, as I said before, I am a new YouTuber. This is my third video, I think. So, sometimes the lighting might be janky, the composition might be a little weird, and maybe I might ramble. But as I said, I'm not a professional YouTuber or videographer, so please bear with me. In today's video, we're going to talk about a plethora of topics. I'm making this video today because hopefully I can help somebody that's new on their motorcycle journey. I have not always been a motorcyclist. It's been a long, winding, very curvy road for me, but if I could do it, anybody could do it. And this is going to be essentially like a story time. So if you don't like story times, you could click off now. If you want to hear how a girl who was very scared of motorcycles got to where she is today, then stay tuned. This video is for you. Writing is one of the biggest sources of freedom, friendship, and personal growth in my life. In today's video, I'm going to share my real story, the fear, the mistakes, the victories, and the lessons I've learned on the journey to becoming a real writer. If you're thinking about writing, struggling through your own journey, fighting for support from loved ones, or simply love to hear stories of growth, this video is for you. Because, and I can promise you this, there has never been anyone in the history of Earth and life who was a worse writer than me when I first started. Y'all, I'm being honest. Pull up a chair, grab a snack, grab a drink, and listen to this. So behind me is my motorcycle. This is Blackfire. Blackfire is a 2025 Lowrider S that I've done some modifications on. So it looks more like a Lowrider ST at this point. So this is, it's not a large motorcycle, but it would seem large to somebody who's a new rider. It's certainly not a large motorcycle by Harley Davidson standards at all. It's also not a fully dressed touring model, even though it does have a fairing and you do see bags there that I added. So as I was saying, where I am now is not where I originally started. This motorcycle weighs over 700 pounds wet, and it's, I think, 630 pounds without gas in it. So it would be quite a big motorcycle for a beginner. It's also over 1900 cc's. So that is quite a leap from me starting out barely being able to hold up the bikes in the new rider course, which are little 250, I think they were Honda Rebels maybe. So how did I go from fear to being proficient at riding a motorcycle? As I said before, my story is a very long one. I've been riding motorcycles now for nearly 12 years. My first impressions of motorcycles as somebody that did not grow up with bikes is that they were for people who wanted to die. I did not have people in my family as such that rode motorcycles. My father rode briefly when I was younger. He went down in an accident, never picked one up again. And I did have an uncle that had a very serious accident when I was younger. And I also had a cousin that had a very serious accident as well, in which he lost his life. So me as a young girl growing up, that's pretty much what I knew about motorcycles. There were not bikers in my neighborhood. I didn't really pay attention to motorcycles as being a thing. So when I first really became aware that motorcycling was a thing and a lot of people did it. Probably, I guess, in the 90s when Rough Riders became a thing, but it was more couched in the music. It wasn't really something that I showed interest in. I think I thought it was a little cool, maybe a little sexy, but again, it was something I never considered for me. Fast forward in life, I'm an adult, I'm married, I have a child, and my husband expresses interest in wanting to ride. I, of course, shot it down immediately. I was not having it. It was not something that I wanted for him. I guilted him. You know, we have a small child. We're newly married. You have a family to take care of. If you already have a dangerous job, this is not something that you should be doing. And he listened to me, or so I thought, for a little while. Time moved forward a little bit. My husband and I were separated. We were living apart, and he kind of just pulled up one day to surprise me on this motorcycle, and he pulled up on a Yamaha R1. Now, if you know, you know about an R1. That's a bike for real. And I think I was shocked. I wasn't angry, but I was more impressed that he managed to save up that amount of money and, basically essentially buy a motorcycle behind my back. And, I was happy for him because he was happy. I was worried. But, he's an adult and he can make his own decisions. So I just kind of tucked my worry to myself and didn't really say much. So he has this motorcycle now for a couple of weeks. He pulls up again another day and he's like, I bought a helmet and a jacket for you. I want you to ride with me. Y'all, I can't express enough to you how badly, strongly, forcefully I was committed to not getting on that motorcycle with that man. I'm looking at this man like, sir, you not even supposed to be on a motorcycle. And I'm like, quote unquote, allowing this to continue. Now you want me to get on the back of a motorcycle? A sport bike at that? The alleged seat is the size of a Triscuit. Where is my ass going on this motorcycle? Absolutely not. I'm not getting on a motorcycle and I'm definitely not getting on the back of that thing. The seat is this big. Where's my ass going to go, right? So after a lot of back and forth and convincing, we decide to go out on a date. I decide to get on the back of the motorcycle. Now I'm terrified. We're riding in downtown Newark. To me, it feels like he's going 100 miles per hour. I glance over his shoulder at the speedometer. This guy is only doing 30 miles per hour, but it feels very fast. The wind is hitting me. I'm outside. I'm exposed. It was a little cold. I just really wasn't sure how I felt about it. So we rode around on the bike a little bit, went to the movies, got something to eat, enjoyed our day. As we're getting ready to head home, he's going to drop me off. He's like, babe, it's going to rain. So if you want to get in out of the rain, we have to go. And I said, I don't know what that means, but whatever you think you're going to do, please don't do it. Y'all, so it was at that moment that I knew I had messed up because he was already headed towards the entrance of what I knew to be a highway. And if you know how the highways in New Jersey get down, then you already know I was in trouble. He's like, I'm going to do it. He gets on. Now, anybody that's from the northern New Jersey area, Route 78 and the Parkway. And the Parkway is like the Audubon of New Jersey. This man gets on the Parkway, guns it down the ramp, and I'm holding on for dear life. All I did was grab onto the back of him, put my head on his back, and just hold on for dear life. And I happened to glance over his shoulder, unfortunately for me, and we were doing about 120. Now, here's me on Route 78, headed towards Newark. I have never been on a motorcycle in my life. Now I'm stuck on the back of this motorcycle on a seat the size of a Cheez-It cracker, doing 125 miles per hour in the rain, holding on for dear life. The scream that I scrummed, I was screaming in that helmet the entire way home. And I was terrified. I don't know how long it took from that point to get to our house, but he dropped me off and I was like, whoa. And it was like something clicked in me that day. So I asked him a couple more times to take me out on his bike, and he took me out a couple more times. And then one day he said, you know what? I can't really take you out a lot on the bike because that bike has not been built for that. And you're too heavy and it messes with the suspension on the bike. Yes, I was being dramatic because what I heard at the time was him just saying, "You're too fat to get on the back of my bike." Now, of course, we know better. We know how suspension on bikes work, and we know that those bikes are essentially not made for two up riding. They're racing bikes, yeah? But at the time, what I heard was, "Babe, you too fat." Ugh. I said, "Oh my goodness. No, you didn't. No, you didn't." I said, "Okay, that's fine. You don't have to put me on the back of the bike." Now, mind you, at this time, I'm not a biker. So he's talking to me about suspension and the performance of the bike. And I'm just like, "You just said I'm too fat." That's all I heard. "I'm too fat." That's fine. So I was heavier at the time, but still, I was upset about it. So I said, "That's fine. I'm just going to take the course on my own and I'm going to get my own bike. Like, you don't have to worry about me." He's like, "You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it." One thing about me, you can't tell me that I'm not going to do something or convince me that I'm not going to be able to do it, because I'm absolutely going to do it. So I signed up for the course, pay my money. Whenever it was my time to show up for the course, it was really, really cold outside, really, really windy. I feel like my course was 2 days, maybe 3 days, but at the end of those days, I was absolutely exhausted, just with nerves, trying to hold the bike up. I did end up passing the course. I got my endorsement. I was very excited. I had been saving up money to buy a motorcycle. Um, and trying to like find out all I could find out about them at this point. Of course, I think I'm going to get a sport bike because that's what's out there. So yes, I had seen cruisers or motorcycles of that like, but my husband had a sport bike. What you get exposed to a lot of times in the media, especially black media, I felt like it was sports bikes. That's what I knew. So that's just where my mind went to. And of course, they look cool. So I used to read sport bike magazine, look at the pictures, try to understand like what was going on. Used to try to get little tidbits of information from the internet, just basically find information wherever I could. But it was still difficult in coming. And also, I don't know any ladies that ride. So I'm just kind of feeling like I'm in this thing on my own. So I'm saving up money to buy a bike, buying little pieces of gear here and there, which was shit gear because I didn't know any better. Buying a little cheap helmet. I get pregnant. So all of my plans get derailed. So all of the money I took to save up that I was going to use to buy a bike, I end up using for the baby that's coming. So I have my son. I sit out from riding or doing anything involved with riding for probably a little over a year. But while I was pregnant, I found out about this event in New Jersey called Flow, Females Leading Our Way. It was a conference basically that they had every summer in July, and the sole focus of the conference was to enable female motorcyclists or women that potentially want to ride, and to give them resources and support, camaraderie, and also there was classes during this event. So I'm thinking, I'm pregnant. Like, I'm really pregnant, like big pregnant, like I'm about to pop. I don't know if I could show up to a motorcycling conference. Like, that's really weird. And I say, you know what? Forget about it. Pay my $60, got my registration. I show up at Flow. I remember pulling into the hotel parking lot before I went in to do my registration and seeing all of these women riding motorcycles. Black women, white women, Latina women, short women, tall women, skinny women, fat women, all these women. And I remember it was Lady Trendsetters from Ohio. I'll never forget this. A whole pack of them pulled up. I believe all of them were on sport bikes, and it was just the way and the manner of which they pulled up, like they owned the joint. And I mean, my mouth was on the floor. I thought it was so cool. And I said, I need to be like them one day. I need to learn how to ride the same way that these ladies ride. And when I found out they came all the way from Ohio, I couldn't believe it, because why would anybody ride a motorcycle that far? What was the thought process? What was the reason? It just seemed like such a baffling concept to me. And I'm thinking, I mean, even if I learn how to ride, I would never ride a motorcycle from New Jersey to Ohio. I mean, that's insane. Why would anybody do that? You know what I mean? So, coming to the conference, the first thing that said to me is, "Did you ride here?" Mind you, I'm wearing a sundress at the time, but I think everybody was just shocked to see a pregnant girl, especially a pregnant girl that big at this conference. And I said, no, I'm just trying to learn how to ride. I have my license, but I don't have a bike, and I'm just trying to meet people. So in this conference, I end up meeting two ladies who would go on to be members of my club. One of the young ladies is the president of my club, the president and founder of my motorcycle club. The other young lady is my VP of my club. And they both said to me, have the baby, reach out to us, and we will come and we will ride with you. I said, bet. So fast forward again, I have my son. At this point, I've purchased a motorcycle. I bought a Gixxer 6. It was a 2002 Gixxer 6. And I loved it. I named her Miss Peaches. And I thought she was the best thing in the world. The problem was I could not get out of the parking lot with the bike. So what I used to do is I had my bike in a storage unit. I was living in Jersey City at the time, so urban environment, and not really anywhere to park. So my husband and I both had our bikes in a storage unit. We would drive to the storage unit, which was in Liberty State Park. He would take the bike out for me and just kind of leave me for a couple hours to ride around the parking lot. And then he would come back and pick me up, ride the bike back to the storage unit and put it in. So I was in this parking lot at this point for probably about, I don't know, 2 weeks. And I just could not really like, I had my friction zone. I think I knew what I was doing, but it was really the fear of me sliding down, the fear of me, being able to control the bike. Because prior to that, right after I got out the class, I was riding the R1 and I low sided on my husband's bike. Some kids ran into the parking lot and I jammed on the front brake, slid out, the bike went down. Bike wasn't that damaged. I got a little bit of rash, but that kind of like really spooked me out. So from then I was scared. So I said, you know what? Let me give a call to those girls that I met. Called my VP. She came out next weekend. I got you. She came up there, rode around with me for a little while. She said, oh, we're getting out this parking lot today. She had me out the parking lot, managed to ride all the way back to my apartment in Jersey City. And my husband was like, oh, well, that's great, but like, I'll still ride with you. And she was like, no, 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 no. We got her. She's good. Next weekend, my prez came out. She rode with me as well. And she said, this is actually perfect because we have some other ladies that we're trying to teach to ride too. But let's get on the highway. And I said, wait a second. The highway, like where cars are going fast, where cars are going 50, 60, 70, 80 miles per hour. I was like, no, 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 no. I'm not ready. And she said, you're ready. So we went all the way from Jersey City to Washington Township, which is the ride up to Washington Township that day ended up being a really great day for me and a really special ride. It started off kind of rocky and a little shaky because I was only going 40 miles per hour on Route 1 and 9. When we pulled over, Prez let me know, hey, we're going to let you ride your own ride and we want you to take your time and feel comfortable, but also we don't want to get run over by cars, so you got to pick up the pace, miss. So pace picked up. We made it all the way up to Washington Township and decided to stop at the mall and have a little bit of lunch. What the ladies didn't know was that day was also my birthday. They were elated to be able to spend my birthday with me. And also what I realized that day was not only did I gain some new riding partners, but it was looking like I had gained some lifetime friends. These ladies would not only go on to be the VP and the president and invite me for membership in a club that I now love, but they would end up being mentors, teachers, and confidants as I entered into the motorcycle lifestyle. All right, my apologies. We had some technical difficulties before when I was outside trying to shoot. The camera was overheating, so I had to take a break. Came back inside so that we could finish the video, so we are back. So, as I said before, wherever we left off, I managed to finally get my bike out of the parking lot and get on the road, riding up and down the highways. I managed to get on 1 and 9, which is a fairly busy highway in New Jersey. Managed to, I think we got on Route 80 to go in North New Jersey. So seems like I was on my way, right? Not so sure about that. So I did suffer a lot of setbacks on my way to becoming the motorcyclist that I am today. Number one major thing that I was not being truthful with my family about riding a motorcycle. So the backstory to that is, Obviously every parent wants their child to be safe, right? And riding a motorcycle isn't exactly an idea of safety. I knew my parents would have a problem with it, particularly my mom. Also, we are in the unfortunate slash not very unique position of having lost a close family member. My brother passed away in 2003, and my parents are very protective of me. So I spent the better part of probably a couple of years just outright not telling them that I owned a motorcycle. I accidentally outed myself at an event that I was at called the All Female Dinner in New Jersey, which was a dinner that was annually put on by the club that I was prospecting for. My mother was in town. I invited her to this dinner. I think I told her something like, this was the wives of the men that my husband rode with. Um, some type of way, I don't remember exactly what ended up happening, but she found out that I had a motorcycle. It was a whole big thing. She was very upset. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking, Woody, you're an adult. You could do what you want. What's the big deal? All of that is true, but the thing that you guys have to understand is I'm very close to my parents. I have a lot of love and respect for my parents, and that's never going to change no matter how old I am. And the thing is, my parents suffered so much with the loss of my brother. I didn't want to worry them and I didn't want to upset them. So telling them that I not only owned a motorcycle, but that I was actively riding one and getting ready to be a member of a club was a big deal. I knew my parents were going to be scared. They were going to be worried. Not really so much angry that I had been lying by omission, but mostly it was going to be the fear. When I told my parents that I was writing and I saw my mom's reaction, particularly, it almost broke me, y'all. And I seriously considered not continuing just because I didn't want my mom to be upset and I didn't want my father to worry. I'm their baby girl, their youngest child, and they've always treated me with kid gloves. So it took a lot for me to essentially defy my parents and decide that I was going to continue doing this. I thought about stopping, but like I said, when you're a rider, a biker, it's in you. And there's not much that could stop you. There was something about it that I knew I had to continue. I had to continue on the path that I set for myself. And I knew they were going to be upset, but I just hoped and prayed that eventually over time, they would get over it and grow to be proud of me and even maybe think it was a little bit cool that their daughter was a biker. But you'll have to stay tuned to see what happened. And basically, I had to deal with the fact that I had been being untruthful to my parents for an extremely long period of time. To this day, even though it's been about 12 years, as I said before, I'm still navigating this with my parents. My parents live with me. They live with me and my husband here in New Jersey, and they do not like the fact that I ride motorcycles, but they've grown to accept it. They know that it's something that I really love. They know that it's something that I'm into, and we all just kind of try to navigate the situation together. It's gotten a little bit easier. My mom used to really get upset, really used to cry, really used to carry on whenever I would get on my bike. But as long as she knows that I'm riding with people and that I'm being safe. Now, again, like I was saying, there has been a lot of struggle and a lot of difficulty for me on this journey. I've experienced all sorts of things. One of the main things that I've had trouble with in the beginning was just keeping up with other people when I was trying to ride with them. I really struggled with dealing with the power of the motorcycle I had. And at this point, I'm still on the Gixxer 6. So I did find it to be a powerful bike. Looking back on it in hindsight, I don't think that bike was as powerful as a bike. The bike wasn't in the best condition and it was an older model. It was a 2002. But at the time, my mentality, I really didn't give that bike like all that it could give me, or I didn't put into it because I was always riding very, very tentatively. So I remember days where I would be on rides with my club and I would struggle to keep up, particularly in turns and curves. I would get lost. I remember being in downtown Newark one day and dropping the bike. I was out, it started raining. I had to go up a hill. It was the only direction I could go in. And of course, when I got to the top of the hill in the rain, I dropped the bike. Not only was it embarrassing, I could have gotten hurt because the bike started to slide a little bit and it could have caught me and grabbed me and dragged me down. I had to wait for a kind gentleman who pulled over in a van to come and help me pick the bike up. I had mechanical issues with that bike and it was just really, really difficult for me. And I said, I'm writing all the time. I'm trying to write to doctor's appointments. I'm writing to the store. I'm writing here. I'm writing to work. I'm writing here and there, but I just can't seem to get it. Like, when am I going to get it? So the moment that changed for me is flow came around, females leading our way again, and this time it was going to be held in Ohio. Collectively, our entire club was going to go to this event, and I said, okay, well, I guess that means everybody but me because I do not have the strength or the energy or the muscle memory to make it all the way to Ohio. And also, I'm not going to be able to keep up with the pack. Then I had the bright idea. I said, maybe I'll just meet them there. Obviously, that was vetoed. Everybody said, absolutely not. You can ride with us. You're going to be fine. We're going to take care of you. Trust your bike. Trust us. That's what you joined the club for, right? The day before no, I think it was 3 days before we were supposed to ride for Ohio, we went out on a club ride and I struggled to keep up on this ride. I mean, mightily struggled to keep up on this ride. And I was so upset at the end of the ride. I remember I was in tears in my helmet on the way home because I said, at this point, I think I've been riding for, I don't know, maybe 2 years or 3 years or something like that. And I'm still really struggling to keep up and really struggling just to be a better rider. But I showed up, kickstands up. I think it was like 5 o'clock in the morning for that ride. And y'all, I made it to Ohio. I don't know how I did it. I don't know what angels were riding with me, but with my club supporting me and me just breathing and pacing myself and just telling myself, take it gas stop by gas stop, I was able to make it there. It was about a 12-hour ride. I think round trip, or maybe one way it might be like 600 miles or something like that. But I just remember pulling into the highway when we were in Cleveland and literally feeling like angels were singing in my helmet because I made it and I couldn't believe it. And it was at that moment when I said to myself, maybe I could do this. And I remember we pulled over, got to the hotel, we put the kickstands up. Everybody from my club came and surrounded me. We were all hugging, we were all crying, and it was just a really, really proud moment for everybody. And that was when I kind of secretly whispered to myself, okay, you might be a biker. You might be a biker. I was really, really proud of myself. And from a person that, motorcycling did not come naturally to me, that was a really, really big moment for me. Another big part of motorcycling for me also, in trying to find who I am as a rider, traveling on this journey that I've taken, has been finding my tribe. Y'all have heard me mention that I am in a club. I'm the sergeant at arms in my club. I've been in this club for nearly 12 years. It's the only club I've ever been in. And they've really been instrumental to me in not only helping me with my confidence and helping me with my riding skills, but just showing me that women can ride and women can ride miles. Women can ride really powerful machines. And I've been surrounded by a tribe of women, not just my club, but other female motorcyclists that I've seen and gotten to know over the years. That's been really important to me. And I really, really hold my club journey and my club sisters really, really close to my heart. They're very important to me. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am today. They're the ones that got me out of the parking lot. You know what I mean? When I first got on the set, there was a co-ed club that I was riding with from time to time and hanging around with and spending time with them. Ultimately, I decided that that was not the decision for me. And a lot went into that decision, which I'm going to make a video in a little bit about club life and what that's about. And I'll speak there about the reasons why I chose an all-female club as opposed to a co-ed club. Number one reason being, which obviously I'm married, so I felt like that was going to present some challenges, which I just wanted to avoid. But I landed where I was supposed to land with my club. I love them to death. They're great. We have a real sisterhood. We love each other. We support each other. And, like I said, those girls taught me to ride, and I'm always going to give that to them no matter what happens in the future. I think it is important for new riders when you get out, when you feel frustrated, when you feel like you want to quit, it is important to find a tribe of people that support you. And, if you're a man, it doesn't have to be all men. If you're a woman, it doesn't have to be all women. You want a nice group of people who are experienced and who are going to support you. It might be valuable and worthwhile to also get another new rider that you guys can learn together and support each other. But you do have people, it's kind of like two tribes in the motorcycle community. You have people who are solitary and they like to ride alone and travel all over by themselves for various reasons. And then you have people like me that love to be on the set because they love the family environment, they love the camaraderie of it, they love the partnership that comes with writing and working with other people on the set. So everybody will have to make those individual choices for themselves. But as for me, I don't mind being on solo rides by myself if it comes to that, but I do really like being a member in a club, and I do like, being a part of a sisterhood and everything that comes with that. So I would say the moment that I really felt like I became a writer was when I really fully understood how much I had accomplished with learning to ride a motorcycle. And I can't stress this enough. Some people, like my husband, when he first started riding, he just jumped on the bike and he went. I mean, the only motorcycle he ever rode was in the safety course, and he bought a bike in upstate New York, got a ride up there, rode that R1 back all the way back to New Jersey, and it was like, a shoe fitting on a foot for him. For me, it was definitely like putting a square peg into a round hole. It just didn't fit, but I was determined to learn and determined to get better. And what I've learned over time is the only way you could get better is to ride your bike. I was very scared of the power that motorcycles hold. I was very nervous and very scared all the time about being hurt, about falling, but there was still always something about it that made me want to do it. And I think it was the satisfaction I get from riding the motorcycle. It was the freedom that I get from riding the motorcycle. You always get a sense of accomplishment and a sense of peace and well being when you make it home. There's nothing better than being out on a long ride, being hot, being sweaty, probably being cold, probably being wet. At some point your ass is going to start to hurt, your shoulders are going to start to hurt. It doesn't sound like fun to people that don't ride, but to people who are bikers, that's fun to us. That's what we love doing. But when you pull in your driveway and put that kickstand down and you've made it home to your family again, it's just an incredible feeling. Even after you take off your gear, that first shower that you take, it's an incredible feeling. It's almost like a feeling of euphoria. It's very hard to explain, but I love taking off my gear, stripping down, and when that hot water just first hits you, it's like the best shower you could ever take. But for me, all of those things add up to me being an actual biker. It's not just riding a motorcycle, it's also meeting challenges head on. It's dealing with the weather, dealing with being uncomfortable. It's having a strong mentality when you feel like you just want to get off the bike, but you have somewhere to go. It's almost like you're competing with yourself. And then every time you get off and on the bike, you've gotten a little bit better, a little bit tougher, a little bit stronger as a person. And I've never really had a hobby or been a part of a lifestyle that gives to me what motorcycling gives to me. It strengthened me as a person. It's challenged me as a friend. It's strengthened me as a parent. It's just made me overall more grateful, more willing to live life, more willing to live out loud, more willing to say, you know, any of us could be taken out of here at any moment. So you got to live life to the fullest. You can't wish and want and wait your entire life. And motorcycling really separates the men from the boys or the girls from the women in terms of who's really willing to put themselves out there and who's not. And that's not to say that people that don't ride motorcycles don't have wonderful experiences, don't enjoy life, don't take risks, don't take chances. But I've always been a person that's been a very, very safe person. I'll take professional risks. I'll take educational risks, academic risks, etc. But anything physical or anything that involved my personal safety, I've never been that person. I don't rock climb. I don't bungee jump. I don't jump off cliffs into the ocean. I don't do any of those things. So this deciding to do this, and I think my parents will probably say it was something, that was kind of out of character for me, and I think it surprised everybody. It surprised myself, but after all these years, here I am and I'm loving it. So like I was saying before, I mean, I think everybody's journey is different. People have come to motorcycling in different ways. I've let y'all know how I came to it and how it's been for me. I don't regret any second of it. Going forward, I do want to become a better motorcyclist. There's some different classes I want to take. There's a gentleman by the name of Robert Simmons that teaches a class on how to master your motorcycle, especially with like slow maneuvering and braking and better clutch control. He travels all over the country during classes. I definitely would love to take a class from him. You know, there's still a lot of work that I have to do as a motorcyclist. I sat out a couple of seasons due to illness and due to bike issues. So, you know, it's a learning curve, and you're always going to be constantly learning when you're here on these bikes. The number one thing that I would recommend for any new riders who are watching this, whether you get the skill of motorcycling very quickly or you don't get it, you always have to remain humble, and you always have to work with your machine. Don't ask it to do anything that it's not supposed to be doing or that you shouldn't be doing, and don't ever think that you have 100% mastery of it, because I just don't believe that that's possible. There's too many variables. So stay humble, stay teachable, and just get out there and ride your bike and enjoy it. And the other thing that I think everybody would agree with, you know, it's a diminishing skill. So if you don't do it, if you don't practice, if you're not out there, if you're not getting seat time, you're not going to get better at riding your bike. You have to try to get as much seat time as possible. And, you know, life be life and work be working, kids be kidding, and all those sorts of things. So sometimes it's hard to get on the bike. I don't get out on my bike as much as I would like. Y'all might know by now, but I am a flight attendant, so I do travel from work. I'm gone a lot. I also have children who are still school aged. I have one child in junior high school, and I have one child that's getting ready to head to college. My parents are here with me. I also have other hobbies that I do. I skate. So I have to fit motorcycling in, but I do, especially when the season comes around. So my season typically is from March to like late November. I try to ride as much as possible. I got some heated gear now, so I've been doing a little bit more riding in colder weather, and I'm just trying to push myself as much as I can and just get up my endurance, learn my machine more. I definitely have been loving being on this Harley Davidson. I love being a part of the Harley community. So this has now opened up a whole new world for me. And I'm also going to do a video about that too, because I wouldn't say I was an OG Harley hater. It was more like I just disregarded them because I never owned one. But now that I'm a part of this community, it's a very vibrant community. It's a very active community. All the bikes are so cool. Everybody customizes them, you know, doing different stuff to them. There's all these different rallies you could go to. Like, being a Harley rider has definitely taught me even more about motorcycling and even more about bikes than I knew before. So I'm definitely loving that. And you know, my plans for the future are just to ride as much as possible, meet as many people as I can, and just continue to go further and further. At some point, I do want to get to the West Coast. That's always been a dream of mine. Um, there's some events that I want to go to. You know, there's Peace Army in Slidell. That's a very far trip for me. And I do have some challenges in terms of, like I mentioned to y'all in the first video, I can't ride at night. So any ride that's past, you know, 700 or 800 miles has to be managed for me, time wise, so that I can get there, you know, when the daylight is still happening. I do definitely still want to go to Sturgis. I do want to go to Daytona. I do want to go to Laconia. There's a lot of bike rallies and events that I want to go to. So my calendar is pretty packed this summer. I'm going to try to take y'all along with me as I go to these events. And anybody, like I said, who's a new biker that's watching this video, I hope it gave you some inspiration. I hope it gave you some confidence. And, you know, just ride your ride and don't give up. If it's something you really want to do, you've invested time in it, you've invested money in it, keep at it, and eventually you will get there. From the worst non-biker, scariest, clumsiest person that ever lived, if I could manage a motorcycle, especially a 1900cc Harley Davidson V-twin, you can manage a motorcycle also. And everybody has to start somewhere. So get you some people, get you a mentor or two, and just start there and keep going. And it's no shame, it's no shade if you are having trouble getting out of your driveway, getting out of the parking lot. Take it at your time, take it at your pace, and I promise you at some point you will get there. So I'm going to end it on that note. Thank you for everybody who stayed to listen to my story time. Thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for time well wasted with me. And as always, this is Wordy Woody, and I'll see you in the next video.